known for a while that he's gone through periods of having no light in his cell. He's been in there for nearly 2 years, and there have been periods of, no access to the outside world, no access to doctors. We're well aware of the situation, and he's been in, prolonged solitary confinement. If only we were able to speak to him more. The court mandates that we speak to him once every week. We speak to him once every 2 or 3 months, if that.
I think that tweet, when that tweet was put out, was actually after large protests in Pakistan about the elections and about just general suppression of democracy in Pakistan. And as a punishment, I think they really ramped up those punishments. No light in the cell, no visitors, and so on.
Is that he has no access to other prisoners. He is, alone in there. He's occasionally in the pitch black for prolonged periods. There was one period where he was in there for 10 days in the pitch black, no electricity, no nothing. And I remember when I spoke to him about that, he said the first 2 days were beyond difficult, and then he was able to get into a kind of Zen-like mentality, and what ended up being 10 days, he said it could have been a year. The situation in his cell is pretty bleak.
That's a very accurate description. He's definitely, resilient. He's probably I would say, I'm obviously biased, but he is definitely the most resilient person that I know by a distance. Very, very mentally tough. And whenever we speak to him, he's as strong as ever. But he's not the type of person to complain about the conditions that he's in. Whenever we will always ask how he is, but he'll always sort of brush off those sorts of questions. He's more interested in hearing how we are.
I know he's dealt with it in a way that is what I think is the right way of dealing with it. Is he just reads loads and loads of different parts of historical literature, religious literature, and then he does exercise. And it's his two things that he's always loved in life. So I think in a cell, it suits him in a way to just be able to focus on those two things. And every time we call, we only get to speak to him for about. It's a technique to try and break him. He's a very, very resilient person, and I don't, he's one of the hardest people possible to break. But all of these techniques, shutting off the lights, leaving him in the pitch black, not allowing doctors to go and see him, making sure that all of our calls are at completely random times and that we might miss them, or whatever, not letting us have our court mandated weekly phone calls. All of this is tactics to try and break him. But he's, good luck, because he's as resilient as they come mentally, and that comes down to his faith. He has strong faith in God, and also he's always had that kind of mental toughness as well. So
that's mainly to do with the fact that there are many of his supporters and his party members and family members who are in prison currently in similar conditions to him. So, and he's very, very principled, and he wouldn't, on their behalf, I think that definitely would have played a part. He wouldn't want to kind of, he'd want to be aligned with them.
He's always been kind of very principled, and I don't think he'd go against his principles very on a whim.
What? When we were younger, when I was younger, I'd hated him being in politics. Would way rather him just do sort of cricket punditry or analysis, and live an easy life in London or out of politics. But it is genuinely his passion, and I don't think he'd feel fulfilled if he wasn't doing what he's doing. I don't think he'd be happy if he was just living a kind of easy life in London, because I think if he wanted to be in exile, he could, but he's genuinely.
He could easily make a deal. Like he would, if from a political perspective, I'm sure they have certain demands. You know, the easiest one is, and this is me speaking, obviously my own opinion, but him speaking in support of the military, for example, or of the opposing political party. Just one example of many of things he could do to gain back his full freedom. But I think his defiance is the reason he's in jail. And do you still, I know you said in casting the same question to you after Suleiman, but do you still try to convince him to get out of politics, or you've kind of given up on that?
No, I mean, I personally would never, I wouldn't even want to say that to him, because imagine you're his son and all he speaks to. So when we spend time with him, you know, a lot of the time we'll be kind of whatever, you know, when we were younger, we were playing cricket with him. Now, you know, watching films, whatever it is, half of the time he's spent lecturing us on rule of law, justice in Pakistan, how, you know, the reasons why he got into politics. You know, we know them so well, and it would be just to go against everything he preaches about, to suddenly just say, okay, I'm going to give up and I'm going to live an easy life. You know, it's just it's not in his nature. Single-minded obsession to try and help the people of Pakistan, and it's in such turmoil right now, Pakistan. He's dedicated to it, and he's not going to give up. One thing, there's a lot of private stuff, obviously, and you know, most of it's about family. But occasionally, he at one point recently, he was laughing about how desperate his opposition are getting. You know, with it's not only these kind of torture tactics against him, and he was laughing. Okay, now they put me, you know.